everyone. You are listening to Your Palm Beach Guide with the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. My name is Kiana Rivera, and today we are joined by Gil Walsh. And as you know, we're going to read a little bit of her bio, and then we'll jump right in. Gil is a principal and owner of Gil Walsh Interiors, LLC of West Palm Beach, New York, and Martha's Vineyard. Known for her extraordinary eye for design, color, and fabric, Gil has led over $300 million in design work for over 45 years. She earned a BA from Chatham University and a BFA at the Art Institute in Pittsburgh. Gil was a Kauffman Society member of the advisory board of Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water for the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy and served on the board of the Pittsburgh Symphony, the board of Phipps Conservatory, and the board of Pittsburgh Center for the Arts. Gil was also part of the advisory board for Chatham University, a member of the National Committee for Performing Arts at the Kennedy Center, and a board member of the Palm Beach County Cultural Council. Currently, Gil is a patron-level sponsor of the Preservation Foundation of the Palm Beaches, a benefactor member of the Society of the Four Arts, and a committee member for the Martha's Vineyard Preservation Trust. She is a Gracie member of the Executive Women of the Palm Beaches, a sustaining member of the National Junior League, and a member of the Garden Club of America. She is a trustee member of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce and a member of the International Women's Forum Palm Beach. She is also currently a senior member of the Decorators Club in New York City, serves on the board of the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art, ICAA, and was selected to become a member of the Design Leadership Network. Holy cow. Thank you, Gil, for being with us today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm so pumped. So I just feel like every time I get to talk to you, it's a huge pleasure because I learn more about you every time. We did an interview with you a couple months ago for the breakfast, and you just are filled with such knowledge and excitement for your work, and I find that so inspiring. So we're going to take it all the way back. I want you to share with us how you got here, how you got in Palm Beach, of all your history in Pittsburgh, because we're fellow Pittsburghians over there, and just kind of start from there.
Well, how far back do you want me to go?
Let's go when you started in Pittsburgh and then transition to how you got to Florida.
Well, I was born and raised in a small town outside of Pittsburgh and never thought I'd go back. So when I finished my education, I ended up in Cleveland, which is a really amazing city. I had no idea. The culture that is there is phenomenal, and that is really where I learned interior design. You can learn it in school, but you cannot learn it unless you literally are in the field. And so from there, I was there for about 10 years, and then I met...
10 years in Ohio?
In Ohio.
Okay.
And then I met my late husband. I've since remarried, and he lived in Pittsburgh and in this little town, Ligonier, Pennsylvania, which once again was where I was born and raised. I couldn't believe that I was going back there, but he retained me to do the interiors of his home. And through that, maybe he didn't want to pay the bill, and he thought if he asked me to marry him, he'd get a discount. I don't know, but we were married for 33 wonderful years.
Oh, wow.
And so during that time, I practiced with a couple of different firms in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
They're no longer. One was an interior design firm, strictly interiors. The other one was a 250-man architectural firm that serviced every facet of a home or a business, including the landscape architecture.
So you were really across the board then.
I was.
I mean, every aspect of design.
I was. But I guess what I really specialized in was luxury and hospitality design on a higher level.
Right.
And that could be offices for professionals, lawyers, doctors, et cetera, or it could be country clubs. That was pretty much the commercial end, or actually hospitals, because hospitals are in the hospitality business.
Right, 100%.
And we worked in the specialized public areas of the hospital.
Okay.
So
and still all in Pittsburgh.
All in Pittsburgh. Then we bought a home in Florida to see if we would like Florida for retirement. And we ended up
It's always Florida. Oh my
It's
gosh.
always Florida. And actually, my family had, a winter home.
Oh, they did? Okay.
In Orlando.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So we were always, we would vacation there in the wintertime with our parents. So we ended up in Jupiter, Florida. And in 1984, there was nothing there. I mean, it was beautiful countryside.
Right.
And because this was all agricultural land that was owned by a big foundation that was slowly sold off to developers, big tracts were set up for gated communities. And we ended up in a beautiful gated community because we were golfers and wanted to try this. It was close to the airport.
Right.
Because we were still working and we needed access to get back to Pittsburgh. So anyway, that's where, and so while I was here, I started to think about my future life.
Right.
And interior design, and I started exploring the area.
So when you came down to Jupiter and you both decided to make your life here, again, was it still, not wasteland, but lots of country and lots of openness?
Yeah, it was very much so. And, being a new person in a new neighborhood, knowing nobody,
right?
How do you begin to know the community? And the community to me is very important.
Well, and how did you start that? Because Jupiter, from what I moved here when I was in 4th grade, so I was in elementary school, and Jupiter was still pretty small, not at all what it is now.
Correct.
Like for me going to Jupiter, I'm like, holy cow, who are all these people?
I know.
I couldn't imagine what it was like when it was first like really starting to get put on the map. But from what everybody describes as, it was the small fisherman little town.
It was.
And you poke around and see all your usual people. So how did you get involved?
Well, it's a long process. First of all, we were involved with our local church, and we began to meet local community people in the church. And
that's the best way to do it. There's nothing like church people.
It really was a great way to do it.
Right.
And through there, I met business leaders in Jupiter who then introduced me to other professional people in my field. And it was a lot of talking to a lot of different people. Then I said to myself, I rejoined the Junior League.
Okay.
Now, again, the Junior League is a wonderful organization and a great organization when you're traveling around the United States, because it's a networking group and you're also doing something good for the community.
Right.
So I connected with the Junior League, and through the women there, I learned about the Executive Women of the Palm Beaches.
Okay.
And that was really one of the first professional female organizations.
And tell me, what's that? What is Executive Women of the Palm Beaches?
Well, they were women that held positions in their companies. They were either a CEO or a manager of a department, or they owned a business. They also were women that were involved in the charitable world. That was very important. And you needed to be interviewed. They vetted the members.
Great.
Because they wanted good quality women and leaders. So I was thrilled because all my charitable work was done in Pennsylvania or in Ohio, and I really hadn't been involved in any charitable work in the Palm Beach County area.
Right.
So anyway, through that, I joined and became very involved. And then from there, and I'm still a Sustainer member or a Gracie member.
Yeah.
But, my business started to grow.
Okay.
I also got involved in going to meetings with the business development organization here, which is fabulous, and the leaders there are amazing. And I learned about Palm Beach. This is how I learned, and I read a lot about this community.
Great.
And realized how amazing it is.
Well, I think it's really great because you really touched on the fact that for people who move here, whether you're, straight out of the gate, you're new, or, now if you're new too, it's really the same process. You have to get out there and meet people.
You do.
And join the groups and really go in with the goal of saying, I need to either network to gain business, I need to network to get my name out there.
Correct.
But always have that sort of purpose and drive behind why you're going to these things.
Right. Exactly.
So when you decided to move here and you opened up your business, how was the business when you got to West Palm? So if you lived in Jupiter, did you always want an office in West Palm?
No, actually, it just started in maybe an organic way.
Okay.
The company I was with in Pittsburgh, the large architectural design firm, they decided, in looking at the growth of Florida back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that there would be room for an architectural firm.
Oh, good.
So they opened up a small office. Well, it was rather large on the PGA Boulevard.
Okay.
And I was in that office running my section, but there were architects that were handling the commercial division.
Got it.
And then, of course, when, and that was going along smoothly, we were picking up jobs. And then what happened was the economy started to sink, in the 2000s, mid-2000, late 2008, 2007.
Right.
And they looked at their financials and said, we're going to leave. You can either come back and run your department in Pennsylvania or you can stay.
Oh, you can stay. Wow.
And I thought, well, I have to stay. I'm married and I want to stay here with my husband.
Right.
So, of course, my husband, who was retired, was thrilled because he thought I'd be home for lunch every day, that would be the end.
And you're like, no.
No, I had too much energy and I just love design. When you go into your career in life, it has to be your hobby.
Right.
And mine truly is my hobby.
It's so funny you say that. So my mom recently just got married to my stepdad, and he was retired from doing I think he was at FPL for 20 something years, like a long time career. And he retired for a year and then he got all excited. He was like, oh, Susan, you're going to come home and, we can do lunch. And my mom's like, you're crazy. I got a career going still, all these things. So she's like, honey, I think you should go back to work.
And did he?
He did. He went back to work.
Oh,
He went back to work now, being, consulting. He was able to go with this really amazing energy company out in Dallas. Mm-hmm. So he gets to go to Dallas once a month, and he's still able to do his stuff here, but still feel I'm going to work, but not as intense as having a full-on career at FPL like he did. But that's funny that you mentioned that. My mom went through the same thing, and she's like, honey, I support you. I love you, but you're driving me crazy. You need to find something to do.
Well, I have a funny story on that note, too, because while I was deciding what my career would be and how it would happen, which we'll touch on quickly in a moment, my husband was looking for volunteer work. In his mind. He was thinking. So he said, Gil, I think I'm going to go to the Jupiter Medical Center. And at that time, it was a very small little hospital. And outside the front door was a newsstand.
Oh.
And the men there, they were young men, they all wore their baseball caps on backwards. And they sold newspapers or they helped people, assist people to their cars.
Right.
And his name was Mason, and he said, Gil, I will be a car parker. And I looked at him and I said, Mason, you can't drive with a darn. You can't do this. He said, no, but I really think I can, and I like these guys. We can sell the newspapers. And I said, well, why don't we think about something else? So then he came back and he said, I'm going to sack groceries. That was the old term at Publix. And I said, so you're going back to your youth when you used to do that. Right. He said, well, they're not going to ask me any questions. They're not going to ask me for money. Yeah. Now, this was really interesting because he ran the Richard King Mellon Foundation in Pittsburgh. And they were, anybody that's in a foundation that has that kind of money, they're all heroes. Yeah. They just give away money. But it's hard to give away money. And but they don't realize, the public does not realize how hard it is. But there's always the ask. Right. And he was tired of that. So he said, if I go to Publix, nobody's going to ask me anything.
He can just continue in his work in peace.
So then I said, no, that's not going to work either. The reason being is that you're going to take a job from somebody that really does need a job there. Yeah. And you don't need a job.
Right.
So his last attempt, which worked, which really was quite funny, we had these hunting dogs. They were English setters, and they needed to be run. And he said, Gil, if I go to Jonathan Dickinson State Park and I offer to pick up trash, I could take the dogs there and I could quietly let them run.
Oh, good idea.
And they'll never know. And I said, well, okay, why don't you see what you can do? I was just happy he was thinking about doing something.
Right.
So he drove into the gate and the guard said, what would you like to do? And he said, I'm here to apply for a job as a volunteer. And he said, well, you need to go to this hut at the back of the preserve. He drove back there. He got into the interview room, and he's a lawyer by nature. He does not, he tells everything as it is. And they said to him, well, what was your profession? And he said, well, I ran the Richard King Mellon Foundation. And they looked at him and they said, how about just going on the board? It doesn't really matter. You can help us. No. You can help us fundraise. So it was really a great experience because we got to see the park in a great way, and he had a great time.
Well, and the park is awesome.
It's awesome.
I love Jonathan Dickinson Park.
So then in the meantime, I decided what was I going to do? And I looked for a firm. My husband encouraged me. He said, you should really work for a firm. You don't need to worry about starting up a business and all the issues that come with being a business owner.
Right.
And I couldn't find the fit. Mm-hmm. So ended up opening my own business, and he just was furious. But anyway, it all worked out. I raised my own capital, as we discussed earlier, by selling all my clothes, my shoes, and handbags, and I was able to carry myself. It wasn't a great spot, but nobody really came to see me. It was in Riviera Beach, but I was sitting in a warehouse with all of my delivery service people, which was great because I could inspect all the furnishings.
You could be there, yeah. You could be the one that had like the last eyes on your product.
Exactly, which was fantastic.
Right.
And then from there we grew and we moved to the Northwood section, which was trying to emerge at that time.
I feel like it's still trying.
It's still
slowly
trying.
But surely. It'll get there eventually.
I think so. It's darling.
Right, it's so
but
cute.
It was so funny in the morning. I get there early because in our business, it does start early. And I could hear chickens and roosters crowing. And I thought, now this is amazing. So anyway, from there we grew and grew, and then we moved to where our location now, which is fantastic. I mean, it's just the karma in that building is unbelievable.
Oh, that's incredible. I love that story just from start to where you are now, and I think that you have such insight. And plus you've done it all. You, like you said, you were up early. You were in the warehouse. You've really gone through every position in your role, which I think makes that makes a business owner. People forget that being a business owner, you have to do it all, and you have to know how to do every role so you can teach. And I think that's really great. Real quick, you're listening to Your Palm Beach Guide with the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. And today our guest is Gil Walsh. And real quick, so now as we transition into where you are today, and how you get clients and where you foresee this in the future, what does that look like?
Well, we have tremendous growth, and we have this tremendous growth for several reasons.
Right.
Many people moving into Florida, particularly Palm Beach County, and with the real estate market as it is in Palm Beach, it's phenomenal. Second of all, we have great staff. Many
your
of them,
team's amazing.
They're amazing, and many of them came out of school as interns, and they learned interior design, through myself, and the way I like to see it. And it's been successful because you need to know every aspect of design. You need to be aware of architecture. That is the first and foremost in this field, and be respectful of it.
Right.
So they have a great eye, and they know the questions to ask. And through that, the marketing we've done has been really a lot of word of mouth, but the chamber has been fabulous for us. We have met so many great people.
Good.
And my first, I think I've been a member for maybe 4 years. I've sort of forgotten, but they asked me, I had an opportunity to sponsor a breakfast. Now, of course, I'm shell-shocked because they said, okay, fine. Then I said, I have to talk for, I don't know, whatever the time is, 10 minutes or whatever. And I thought, how am I going to speak and keep the audience interested in interior design? So I really thought about it, and I was the main presenter that day was the Cultural Council, and they were interviewing different artisans in the Palm Beach community. It was perfect because I thought I am aligning myself with the art world because we are art.
Good.
So it was terrific, and the audience listened. I could see that they were not, on their cell phones.
Right, they were paying attention.
They were paying attention. It was terrific. So that was a big boost. And then social media, which maybe I mentioned, has been fabulous, and it leads people to our website.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And just the fact, too, that you guys really have, even your whole team, has just incredible fashion. So, you guys, especially you, look what you're wearing today.
I know.
You've never had a bad outfit, ever.
Thank you.
Ever.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing because us in the office, me and Gabby and Jane, we're always like, I wonder what Gil's going to wear today. Because it's just to see a peek in your closet would be incredible. But you talked about art. It transitions into everything you do, and
it
when
does.
you do your work with your clients, to how you present yourself, to everything. It just kind of comes all together.
Well, it totally does. And my original training was in fashion design.
Okay.
And then I segued into theater design.
Wow.
And I really was trying to decide, what do I want to do for my career? Right. And I decided after my father, who was quite funny, was a doctor. He measured everything and how many gallbladders he removed.
Wow.
And he had educated me in very nice schools along with my
Right.
sister. And I came back to him at graduation from college and I said, I'm going to be an interior designer. And he said, are you kidding me? Do you know how many gallbladders it took me to get you to here?
Oh, man.
How are you going to do this? And I
Right.
said, I'll be successful.
Good.
Don't worry. And I believe that education totally prepared me for interior design. If we think about our lives are placed in a theater. And the theater is the stage that I learned how to design.
Right.
I also learned how to broadcast from a stage. Then we dress the people, or the people come, and then we dress the people, and those are the actors.
Wow.
And those are the actors in our house. So when you think about all the rooms of our house is a living room. Right. So typically in our house, there's a living room. So what happens in a living room? Well, many times it's used for special parties.
Right.
Because we normally hang out where the TV is. And so we dress accordingly. In our TV family room, we dress accordingly. You go to visit a doctor. He's in a costume.
Right.
A lawyer is in a costume. So you think about it. That's what it's about.
Wow, that's so great. I've never thought of it that way.
Every room has a purpose.
Wow.
And so you dress typically for the purpose.
No, 100%. I think as we close and as we just think about the future of your business and where it's headed, what would be your tidbit of advice to the people who are getting into interior design, or not even, or really just trying to figure it out? Like you said, like you were able to kind of go through that experience to say, what do I really want to do with my
Well, I
career in
think you
life?
have to decide what you want to do and the hours it takes to put into what you want to do. And if you're willing to do it, it has to be your hobby. And interior design and architecture, it doesn't pay that well when you think about all the hours you put in. So you have to really like what you do. And you're an artist. Wow. Actually, every field is an artist if you think about it. Yeah. And I think that you have to have the passion.
Oh, that's so good. Well, Gil, thank you so much for being
You're
on
welcome.
with us today. And it just flew by. And thank you for all you do. You're amazing.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here. And best of luck.